Hello, welcome to European Open briefing for Monday, October the 15th. I'm Rafa Bayajan, currency analyst at xm.com, and we're going to be having a look at what's happening in the currency markets today. The rebound in risk appetite didn't last very long. On Friday, we did see a strong close on Wall Street, but this morning we're seeing another bout of risk aversion. We can see sharp losses in equities in Asia and in Europe. The main indices there are also starting the day sharply lower. If you look at the currency markets, the yen is the biggest gainer this morning. The yen is up against most major currencies, including the US dollar. Dollar yen currently trading around 111.75. The dollar index slightly lower. So over the weekend there were intense talks over Brexit, but we still don't have a deal, and the pound did open sharply lower as a result of that. The euro did start day in negative territory. It's now moving marginally higher against the US dollar, but there are other factors weighing on the euro. So we've got the Italian budget, so the government there needs to submit the budget to the European Commission today, and it could likely be rejected by the European Commission. We also had state elections in Germany, where Angela Merkel's sister party, the CSU, lost their majority there in regional elections. So that was a further sign that Angela Merkel is now a much weaker chancellor. We also had recent recent friction between her coalition partners as well. If you look at the main risk-sensitive currencies, though, the Australian and the New Zealand dollars, both are actually extending their gains from last week. The Aussie slightly up at 0.7126 against the US dollar. So both countries performing surprisingly well despite the overall negative market sentiment. If you look at commodities, gold, though, has finally managed to regain its safe haven status. It's up by 0.8% at $1,227 an ounce, following up from last week's strong gains there as well. If you look at WTI crude, oil prices did fall sharply last week. Today, though, they're up. They were up by close to around 1% at the start of the trading day in Asia. Now they've paired their gains. We've got increasing tensions between Saudi Arabia and the West over a missing journalist. That has the possibility to escalate into something bigger. But for the moment, its impact is fairly limited. If you look at the main performance, we can see gold is the biggest gainer so far. At the bottom, it's dollar yen. And taking a closer look at at the dollar index, rather, we can see the dollar index did recover late in the middle of last week. It's now opening the day slightly lower. Dollar yen did touch a near 4-week low of 111.74 earlier in the day. The yen is seeing broad demand due to safe haven flows. So we're seeing the concerns about the US-China trade tensions, the rising US yields, fears of a Chinese economic slowing down, all of that resurfacing at the start of trading week this morning. We also had comments over the weekend by the US Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, who said that the US would include a provision on currency manipulation the same way that such a provision was added to the updated NAFTA. They would add that to all future trade deals, including Japan. So that possibly makes striking a trade deal with Japan less likely. So that is also somewhat weighing on risk appetite and helping the Japanese yen. If you look at what's happening to the UK pound, it did climb sharply last week before on Friday, slipping lower as a deal as there are conflicting headlines over whether or not a deal is likely soon. At some point over the weekend, it looked like there was a deal, but then it was announced that there's going to be a pause in the talks for a couple of days before they resume on Wednesday, just as when that two-day European Union summit begins. It is possible that there could be an agreement by that EU summit on October 17 to 18. If not, it will likely continue. Talks will likely drag on till November. So there's likely to be further volatility for sterling, and it does also suggest that economic data will likely be ignored. In the meantime, we've got this week UK inflation, retail sales, and unemployment numbers coming up. There's also concerns about a rising mutiny within Theresa May's cabinet, as more and more senior cabinet members are questioning her Brexit plans. For the time being, though, despite the decline, sterling is holding not too bad at 1.30, around 1 point, just above the 1.31 handle. And a quick look at oil prices. We can see last week those losses took WTI to near 3-week lows. Brent also touched 3-week lows. This morning, though, we saw a bit of a bounce in oil prices. WTI climbing above $72.50 a barrel. So there are tensions between Saudi Arabia and the United States now, as it's being reported that a Saudi journalist that went missing in a Saudi consulate in Turkey was allegedly killed by Saudi by Saudi authorities. President Trump has threatened severe punishment if there is evidence that Saudi Arabia was involved in his killing, and Saudi Arabia has said that they will announce countermeasures as well. That has a possibility to turn into something nastier. For the time being, though, the impact on oil prices is somewhat modest, as there are growing concerns about the demand outlook, mainly due to the trade tensions and weaker global growth limiting that spike in oil prices this morning. And looking at what's coming up later in the day, the main focus will be on US retail sales. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.